Everybody, and welcome to today's show. My name is John. I am the head of product for Crayon, and I am going to be your host into today's dive into the future of marketing and the future of work, and honestly, probably a little bit of the future of life itself as well. In case you are wondering what weird and wonderful music we were all jamming out to there, you may have guessed it. That was AI generated music. I felt like that was pretty on brand for this session. We will share the link. It was created on a product called Suno. If you have not used Suno before, you should check it out. I think you will have another blown away by AI moment. Before we start, I just want to let you know that we are recording today's session. We will send that out via email. And we will have a Q&A for our guests at the end. So please use the Q&A box in Zoom to ask your questions. I can already see some questions in there before we've even started, which is great. Get in there early because these will fill up. Okay, so now on to the real reason that we are here today. Our guests are both absolute legends in the AI space, in the go-to-market space. As in, if I had to sort of dream up the ultimate duo to cover today's topics, these two are it. So I would like to please first welcome Claire Vaux. Claire, if you want to join us. Claire, if you don't know Claire, you probably do. If you don't know Claire, Claire is a multiple-time founder. She's a multiple-time CPTO. That's both product and technology. Kind of a big deal. She is currently the CPTO of LaunchDarkly and also the founder of Chat PRD, which is one of the most popular, maybe the most popular AI tools for product managers. In my head, Claire is basically kind of living in the future and reporting back to us. Claire, welcome. You ready to drop some of your takes today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. And joining her is Eilon Reshef. So if you don't know Eilon, and again, you probably do, Eilon helped invent a major part of today's kind of go-to-market motion using AI because he is a co-founder of Gong. Yes, Gong. The platform that kind of flipped the whole sales world on its head because 10 years ago, Eilon and his co-founders said, hey, we're going to record all of your sales calls and we're going to feed them into AI. And I think most people were like, what? And now I think sales teams can't really function without call recording and all the stuff that comes with it. So welcome, Eilon. How are you?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Great. I'm going to jump us right in with a quick fire opener to both of you. So I want you to cut through all of the marketing waffle, and I want you to help our audience understand what is the difference between an AI agent and, just a regular bog standard common or garden AI chatbot or AI assistant. And I'm going to go to Claire first.
Amazing. So believe it or not, this is the one of two AI agent presentations I'm giving today. So I actually have the cheat sheet for my one I'm doing later. And what makes to me AI agentic is it's not just tasks on a schedule. There's this running joke that agents are just cron jobs with LLM calls. I think that the agentic experiences are really going to be available on demand. So you'll be able at any moment to demand a task to be done, be an expert at a domain or a set of domains. It has access to tools and integration. So part of the definition, I think, of an agentic product or experience is something that has access to generating assets, connecting with other tools, and taking operations or behaviors on behalf of its sponsoring user. And then I think that agents are going to be both reactive, respond to user request or user prompt, as well as proactive, identify what needs to be done and do it proactively without any user prompting. So those are kind of the things that I think of that differentiate an agentic experience versus a chatbot experience.
So they can do stuff, they can click buttons, they can, go into tools and do work, and also they can react to things that you ask them to do, but they can also think of things that you may not have thought of and just go and do those anyway.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Great. And I have to know, so you're doing two sessions on agents today.
Yeah.
How much of your content was written by AI?
The creative was generated by AI. I wrote the content.
Wow,
But
that's really
the
interesting. I might come
creative
back to
was
that.
done by AI.
Okay. Awesome. Eilon, what's the difference between an agent and an assistant?
Wow. So I have two answers. One is probably like a copilot or a chatbot is 2024 and agent is 2025. That may be one way to look at it. But kind of more seriously, I think agents blew a little bit out of proportion with kind of it started with like, a bunch of tasks and then it's like this autonomous creature that walks on Earth and tells us what to do. But sort of somewhere in between, I think chatbot is something you interact with. You sort of like we all know what it is. I think agent is more of a not necessarily a cron job, but something that has some aspect of automation, some aspect of doing things versus just responding to prompts or to questions. I think if you sort of look at like where the maybe kind of popular press puts it a little bit further out in terms of, hey, it's going to be autonomous, going to know its own thing. I think kind of pretty much a task that is maybe less kind of specific, gives it a bit more degrees of freedom, does use an LLM. I would probably call it an agent, anywhere from, I don't know, call it a summarizing a conversation to, I don't know, predicting something that's kind of not trivial tasks that kind of can be automated.
Yeah, so you said something really interesting there about so 2024 is assistants, 2025 is agents, but I think also you kind of hinted that maybe like agents aren't quite as far ahead as the tech media would have you believe. So interesting note for our audience. We were going to try and do a demo on this session. We were going to try and do a demo of OpenAI's operator for a B2B use case. And we decided not to do it because right now it's just, don't get me wrong, it's an amazing technology, but it's just not that great at B2B stuff. It's really good at, booking flights or, changing your hotel. But I agree with you there. I don't think it's right there, but I do think you use something like operator and you can kind of like see the future, right? You can see the potential this technology has, even if the execution isn't quite there yet. So I'm curious, like, where does this all end up in the next few years in terms of agents that we're using for work? Presuming we're going to be interacting with them all the time, they're going to be suggesting things that we should do. Like, what's it going to look like? Are they going to be joining meetings and Zoom calls? Are they going to be helping us make decisions? Are they going to be handling day to day? Are we going to have like reporting structures of agents? What is your take? And I'll start with you, Eilon. What is your take on how agents are going to sort of reshape meetings and collaboration, and I guess really like even company culture over the next few years?
Yeah, so I think there's one area that is kind of clearer and one that is more speculative. I think if you look at the clearer piece, it's basically if you have tasks, kind of call it task-specific agents. By the way, at Gong, this is kind of where we're focusing on right now. Let's assume you want to create a brief about something, right? An AI agent can do it for you. So it will take a lot of the mundane tasks out of people's hand and just kind of automate it. I think the notion that in a business environment, this agent would be autonomous, I think it's just misunderstanding of a business environment. We all get excited by ChatGPT kind of working in our personal life, but I think that most of organizations don't want this self-deciding creature to do stuff. They actually want to control it. So they're going to have some way to sort of, hey, control how it works, put boundaries, put guidelines, put a repeatable process so they can measure and optimize. If each agent does its own thing, there's no way to sort of get any predictability. I think how far it goes in terms of like the size of the tasks and sort of the degree of automation, it's obviously going to increase. I think usually what happens, technology usually takes more time than people anticipate. But certainly in the next, I would say 2, 3 years, we're going to see more and more of those kind of mundane tasks automating from creating documents, summarizing documents, doing research. With a click of a button, you'd be able to do many of those, by the way, based on the specific company's structure, guidance, templates, whatever it is, versus, hey, go ask ChatGPT and get your own, to Claire's thing, get your own PRD based on any kind of format. I want to have my own company's kind of think that I want to control the agent.
Do you think they end up talking to each other? Do you think we end up with different agents for different kind of business domains and they have to communicate with each other? Or do you kind of see the future as, like you were saying, you've still got human oversight?
think for most cases, it's going to be human oversight. So I'm going to kind of piggyback on Claire's definition of cron. I mean, obviously, it's kind of, it reminds me of the microservices thing that happened. I don't know when it was 10 years ago. It's like, oh, everything's going to be microservices. And in a way, an agent is a AI-based microservice. How big it is, how many of them there are, how much they collaborate. I think eventually it's sort of a little bit of an engineering thing of like, if an agent, call it whatever, tasks need to do subtask, then you basically call another agent. I don't think it's as kind of humanized as the press makes it.
Right.
It's basically software engineering, back to software engineering kind of thing, but that's my opinion.
Right. So basically, we're not going to have a future where we've got a bunch of agents in our board meetings pulling up data and giving us opinions. Claire.
Yeah,
Same
I have a very different point
Yes,
of
let's
view
get into
here,
it.
which is I am already using like a multi-agentic experience where agents are passing tasks directly to one another and generating real work with minimal oversight from me. And so, maybe because I'm can have the opportunity to push the edges of some of these newer tools and think about how they can be integrated, I see now sort of the independence of operating that these agents can have. And the guardrails to me come from the guardrails that already exist in the software engineering space. They're going to come at like the sort of like repo, git, merge, PR level, which is like the final. Although you'll see that move. In marketing, it's how do things get published? But I also think that barrier is going to fall down really quickly. Internal content is going to get published very quickly without user oversight. And I think we're pretty close to external content being published very quickly without external oversight. So I'm a little bit more bullish on these technologies becoming more independent, more interoperable. And honestly, I think the interface feeling human, whether or not behind the scenes, it's a series, it's a wrapper on a series of API calls and microservices. Yeah. The fact that they feel human actually smooths the glide path on adoption. So it's much easier to treat an agentic experience like a colleague, speak to it like you would speak to a colleague, request of it like you would request of a colleague, give feedback like you would give a colleague, then perhaps think about how you change your interaction with tools. So I think there's a space here. Now, I do agree that companies change is hard. And I think the technology will exceed organizations' capacity to adopt and change their operations. But I'm already telling my managers, like, look, you need to start thinking about what a world looks like when, you don't have a headcount budget, you have a headcount plus software budget, and you come to me and you propose what the right allocation is. You need to think about the operations and rituals where part of your team are these agentic tools. How do you work? How do you keep in check? How do you sync on priorities? All those things. I think it's going to happen. Or at least I'd like to imagine a future where it does. And just given the state of the tools that I'm using today, it's hard to believe that it won't happen.
So did you, I want to make sure I caught this correctly. You say you've got instances now where you've got agents communicating with each other?
Yep. I have Chat Party chatting with Devin. They're working out specs and stuff, and then Devin goes and writes code.
Sorry, who's chatting with Devin? And Devin, just maybe you could explain what Devin is for our audience.
Yeah. So Chat Party is my product. It's an AI copilot for product managers. It has a agentic experience that's not GA right now, but I use it. That can like generate product documents. And
you heard it here first.
Be your on-demand product manager. Devin is a product from Cognition Labs. It's basically an agent for code writing. I say it's my favorite intern. It gets better every year or every month. So those two tools I've gotten set up in a way that they can talk to each other. And then they generate basically full product experiences for me where like I'm sort of like leaning back watching, and then I get the output or kind of approval clicks, but they're already working together. So I feel like those things are happening now. Now, organizationally, it's complex and it's harder to roll out in enterprises, but I think it's possible.
Is that in Slack or like in a messaging channel that's fascinating. I think as well, obviously agents are just one kind of face of generative AI. I think actually for a lot of people, and we hear this from customers a lot, there are lots of different tools out there, right? And if you even just take, say, OpenAI, all the different ways that you can interact with it, you've got chat models, you've got reasoning models, you have deep research, then you've got operator, then obviously that you don't, not even including things like DALL-E and Sora, is that the video one? Mm-hmm. And then you've got Perplexity and all these different kinds of tools that are all doing similar things. I think it's a bit overwhelming for most people, actually. If I'm just trying to get work done, or if you're getting work done, how are you choosing like which of these tools to use and when? And like, are any interfaces I missed? I guess what would be your advice for our audience to try and navigate this real ever-growing stack of different kind of AI tech and different interfaces? Let's go to you first, Eilon.
Okay, so I think the first distinction I'm always trying to make, I mean, not in my personal life, but sort of as I'm thinking about AI and chatbots and agents and all of that, is between, and I think the market is being confused, in fact, from, there's the consumer app. ChatGPT is a great consumer app. It's got things called like, memory and canvas, all of like consumer-ish things. And I think as a consumer, like any consumer app, you're going to use some pieces. You're going to learn. I don't use half of my apps on my iPhone. That's fine. I use the ones I need, and I forget about the other half. And maybe I use the alarm clock every day. The rest I use kind of less often. So that's kind of one thing. I think as you look at like not a consumer app, but the core LLM technology and business, I think this is going to be a lot dictated by the enterprise. For example, I don't foresee a world where basically every employee is going to be expected to sort of copy paste materials from work,
right,
into some agent and or a chatbot or whatever, and then copy paste it back. So I think over time, what we're seeing, but also I think what will happen in the next kind of couple of years is organizations will find a way to kind of integrate the LLM or bot or call it whatever agentic experience within the core workflows of the organization. That in a way, it's going to make it very simple for the the employee, and they don't need to worry whether it's Sora, whether it's ChatGPT, or whether it's Claude or whatnot.
Yeah, so you kind of feel like that obviously like the foundational model companies like OpenAI in B2B, even though many companies are using like OpenAI Enterprise and using the enterprise version of ChatGPT, for example, your take is that eventually these all kind of get subsumed by the application layer and it's calling OpenAI's APIs.
I think so. I think they're doing a marvelous run at like trying to beef up the consumer applications so that more and more people get used to it, in a way competing with Microsoft and sort of like the sort of the horizontal play. But in the world where you want to, I don't know what it is, like even like send a follow-up email to a customer, like you're not going to copy paste the context of your entire company back to ChatGPT, write all of this for me and copy paste it back. I'd expect one button that kind of does it all.
Claire, like what are the different things that you find yourself using, let's say deep research versus reasoning versus regular chat?
Yeah, I mean,
how do you kind of delegate tasks differently between those different approaches?
There's a couple things. I would say like the core things in my toolkit are going to be like research strategy and context. So how do I get the correct information to make good decisions or create good business outcomes? And how do I make that less time intensive, but high detail? So those would be things like deep research. I do use quite a bit. I do use like the kind of more reasoning models to analyze documents pretty frequently. So if I have a dispersed set of documents, competitive research, all those sorts of things. So I use it for kind of like context and research quite frequently. And I'll use generally OpenAI, which I think has good, we have OpenAI Enterprise. So I think they have pretty good models and tools for that. Then there is sort of asset generation. So over the course of my work, when do I have to produce assets? Those can be either written documents, of course, again, probably one of the commercial model providers. I like OpenAI. Claude does it, or Anthropic does an also totally serviceable job at doing written content. But I actually also do a lot of different content generation. So I use the prototyping tools pretty frequently, the V0s, Bolts, and Lovables of the world to get product concepts across. I'm going to do a bunch of image generation because the ChatGPT models are very good right now. And then I do a lot of audio generation. So there's like sort of practical audio generation. I do Notebook LM, sort of Google's product, to summarize maybe like a deep research output and put it into a podcast form. That's a great way to like socialize content across the company. I also have used 11 Labs to do like custom internal podcasts or even prep external facing presentations. And then my favorite use case, of course, is to use Suno to make AI generated songs for every product release. So it's a variety of it just kind of depends on the output and what I'm trying to do.
So by the way, V0 is my current favorite tool for anyone out there who's looking for new stuff to play around with. V0.dev, rapid AI prototyping. You mentioned, I think, 11 Labs there, which I haven't used, but I think that's kind of like an audio video generation.
Yeah,
you said you use that to help you write.
More focused on audio.
More focused on audio. And you said you use that to help you with presentations. Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
So we do these, this is kind of an interesting one for the marketing folks on the call. We do twice annual product launches. They're big old productions in that we either pre-record them or they're live. We're very opinionated about what the script is. It's multiple people. And we really want to tune the script basically for to make sure that we have something great. And recording people synchronously going through a dry run is actually very, very expensive. You take a whole bunch of people who have other work to do, you put them in a room, you dry run, you record, then you kind of watch it and you're like, does this work or not? Where is it useful? So what I did last year on some of our big launches is I took our script, which we always script out our talk track, and I posted it in 11 Labs and then generated a podcast that was basically like different voices doing the different parts of the presentation. Just listened to it and said, if I was at my computer listening to a virtual kind of like telecast of these launches, would this compel me? Is this interesting? And so it was a really cheap way to get a prototype of a live event. And I thought it was very fun to do.
Yeah, that's a great use case. I haven't heard that one before. I think let's dive a little bit more into marketing. You kind of took us towards marketing there. Obviously, our audience here is primarily product marketers, competitive intelligence pros, sales reps. So a question I get asked a lot by our customers, I get asked questions like, how can AI improve, campaign performance, or how can AI improve my ROI? I think the question behind the question, though, is actually like, how can I use this stuff to make me look like a genius? How can I impress my boss? How can I get promoted? Okay, I think both of you talk to, top tier marketers and CMOs and growth teams all the time. What are some things you are seeing? How are the best marketers out there using AI to, actually have an impact on ROI? Is it content? Is it testing? Is it targeting, campaign design? Like, where's the gold? Either of you jump in. All right, I'm going to pick then. Claire, you go first.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go. So for marketers in particular, marketing is at its core like a content function. You're ingesting content, you're creating content, you're communicating with customers through content. And so I do think the ability to iterate on messaging, campaigns, and creative just accelerates the creative process and helps teams get to the core of differentiation in a great way. So I think that's one place. I think the other thing is just increasing their depth of customer and market context to create highly differentiated campaigns. So before it'd be really hard to cull through, and I'm looking at my co-panelist here, it'd be really hard to know every great customer quote or prospect quote that comes in a call, or every objection, or every little nugget that could identify competitive differentiation. Those things are hard to mine for. Previously, they're expensive. They get lost in the ether. They get lost in people's minds. Access to that content is incredibly valuable for marketing, and in particular, product marketing. And then the question is, just because you have access, doesn't mean you do something with it. And so I think it's the ability to activate the context that these tools are providing you that is the most differentiating to me. And then I do think I am probably the furthest on AI can do a pretty good job at your job. Be careful. And I think it's very obvious when these tools are used by folks that don't have an opinion on their own products or on their own space. And so it's not an excuse to not develop your own point of view. It's a tool to make your own point of view more defensible, I think.
Okay, so there's some voice of customer stuff in
Yep.
there. Like, I'm really using tools like Gong. By the way,
Yep.
Gong is awesome at this. We have built an integration at Crayon on top of Gong to do exactly this. So I completely agree. To really understand your audience and, just allow you to do everything downstream of that kind of content creation, targeting so much better because you're understanding how your customers think. Eilon, where's the gold?
There's I completely agree with Claire. I mean, marketing is a lot about content processing and generation. I think there's tons of opportunities. Content generation in general, I'd probably rank as -- 1. And I'd say probably things that might have taken 3 hours might take now 15 minutes. And
Yeah.
it's true for long form write-ups. It's true for product marketers, right? You got to invent a name, ChatGPT, give me 10 options, and no, change this, add this, do this. Nowadays I don't do anything without ChatGPT kind of advice around this. But I'll give you an example. Like, I was writing a Forbes Council write-up, what was a few days ago, and I got a draft from my marketing team, and like I didn't even have to touch it because it's like, ChatGPT, could you move this point, add this point, keep the style, change this, add this, I don't like this thing. 10 minutes, I get back like a V2 that in previous life would have taken me at least 2 hours, right? It's like the time saved, and I think it's true for tons of work within the marketing organization, not just me as a product leader.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, have either of you created a feedback bot for yourselves? Has anyone done this?
I sell the feedback bot of myself
That's
to the
fair.
market.
That's fair.
So yes, I have created one.
Yeah, so this is a hack for people out there. If you want a quick way to provide feedback or get suggestions on content, take a bunch of your own feedback that you have given other people or given to content, like literally copy and paste the emails or the Slack messages, put that into a GPT and tell the GPT, this is how I like to give feedback. Please, be my feedback bot for other content. And then anytime someone sends you something and says, hey, can you give me feedback on this? Run it through that GPT first. You will save yourself hours. Okay, so let's take a little right turn here. So Claire, I want to ask you something specific. I have seen a take that you have shared with the world, and I think everyone should go and check out Claire's presentation at what's the Figma conference called? I've forgotten the name of the conference. Config, yes. Your take is that traditional product management is dead. Okay, and if you want, you can kind of tell us a little bit about that. But what I would like to know is, do you have a similar take on, the other side of product marketing? How do you, in the same way that you have this, strong opinion, which by the way, I think is absolutely spot on how product managers need to adapt. What's the corollary for product marketers? Like, what should product marketers be doing today to stay ahead and move with the times?
I mean, I will keep anonymous the source, but I had somebody message me and say, I just use deep research. Do I ever need to hire a product marketer again? And that wasn't me. It was, hey, these tools are generating so quickly such high quality content analysis, positioning, messaging, that the question is not, is product marketing valuable, or is product management valuable, or does someone have a role in providing those skills and contributions to a company? I think that's very obvious. It's who's going to do it. And the question is a product marketer with a V0 going to be able to just step in and extend into the product world, bring the market context, bring the commercialization context, and be able to speak to how the product is actually built? Will they extend it to that? Will product managers say, look, if I have all these tools, it's not writing the briefs that's complicated. It's not writing the positioning. It's not the pricing and packaging. It's just, I can do all that stuff, package it up, and then bring my strategy to it. So I think to me, it's less about, are the roles going to be eliminated, but who's going to do the roles and what are they going to be shaped like when they're powered by these tools? And so, my general encouragement I've given to folks is, don't prepare for the now. The now is moving incredibly fast. Like yesterday, image generation could not write words. And today, image generation can write words. Like it's happening so fast that what I tell people is like cast forward how you think the world is going to look like in 2 years or 5 years. Like place a reasonable bet given current pace of change and build your career to be prepared then. So learn the tools, think ahead, like push a little bit because I suspect things will change faster than folks expect. So, I think getting really comfortable with tools, I think carving out time to experiment. I think writing down your learnings on when things don't work and why, and then thinking about your collaborative interfaces and how these tools might change those. Those are some of the recommendations I give to anybody in their career right now.
Awesome. Eilon, any reflection on that? Future of product marketing, career management?
I definitely agree with kind of Claire's recommendation. I think anybody in any profession should be spending time on sort of the latest and greatest tools. Otherwise, you might stay behind. It might be just, I don't want to say too late. You're never going to like completely be put it out, but it's kind of part of your responsibility to sort of leverage the latest tools. I would even maybe position it. I get a benefit. So not to anybody here in the audience doesn't know, I'm actually based in Tel Aviv. So it's a 10-hour distance from the Bay Area, which makes me a little bit, I can breathe before I kind of get all of the Bay Area hype. It takes 10 hours to get to me. So I kind of breathe a little bit slower. And I think there's a little bit of an obsession to sort of eliminating jobs like digital worker, all of those kind of names, and which it's kind of fun, but it's like, I think the main benefit of AI is not replacing jobs. It's, kind of cutting away from the work. Like 20 years ago, I think secretaries were typing on typewriters, or they don't do it anymore, but the role still exists. It might be called an executive assistant or whatnot. I think the roles fundamentally will change, will kind of, maybe the titles will stay, but what you do during your day is going to change. So maybe you don't write so much, or maybe you don't need to give feedback, right? So as you sort of look at your job, kind of try to see what you can automate out of yourself, and inherently the stuff that can be automated is the thing that's going to change. It's going to stay. The rest, great. Nobody likes to do mundane tasks that AI can do for them.
And you both hit on something there as well, which I think is important. And by the way, just we're getting a ton of questions in the chat, which are all some form of, can you please send us a list of all the tools that are being mentioned in this webinar? We will totally do that. I promise you the first thing I'm going to do after we finish is I'm going to take this transcript, I'm going to put it into ChatGPT, and I'm going to say highlight all the tools we talked about, and then we're going to send that out to the email list. So don't worry, we have your back there. You both mentioned something there, which is like staying up with trends. Like where are places you go? Because I think it is moving really fast, right? Like stuff gets released and you kind of, you get a few days to use it, and then there's something else out there. And I think it's kind of hard to stay on top of sometimes. What's your both go-tos for just keeping up with, the latest products, the latest technology? Is it Twitter? Is it, Slack groups? Like, how are you staying on top of stuff?
Yeah, I generally get a lot of stuff on X, and then I have an AI accountability buddy that I would call. It's not really
tell us about
formal, but I have like my one friend who is like as into it as I am, and so we have just this long going text of like, have you tried this? He peer pressured me into Claude Code this weekend. So we sort of like one up each other on who's tried the most stuff, and that's been the thing that's actually driven me to use the most tools and experiment.
I have to ask, is that a human or is that an AI friend?
It is a human. I mean,
okay.
Who knows at this point? We're both.
I think there's a product there.
Yeah, probably.
Eilon, how are you staying on top of stuff?
So it's kind of interesting, actually. It's a good point. So I normally I live very close to the office, so I don't get to hear lots of podcasts. Unfortunately, when I work further out, I would take information from there, and I hate newsletters. But actually, as the AI revolution started, I actually started going back to newsletters because the pace of innovation is so crazy that if you don't follow the news for like a few days, you're like, oh, I'm still using ChatGPT 3.0, whatever the thing is, like GPT 3.0.
Yeah.
So I have subscriptions for like TLDR, Alpha Signal, and many others. And they just kind of send stuff to me. Otherwise, I'm going to miss it. There's no way I can proactively follow stuff. And it so happens if you have like 3 or 4 newsletters, you're not going to miss much because, one of them is going to catch this Gemini offering this, or ChatGPT doing image like characters and other things.
That makes sense. A hack I've used, which I find useful, is GPT. ChatGPT has a feature called scheduled tasks. Have you seen that at all? So I actually have ChatGPT summarize me AI news every day as a scheduled task and then send it to my inbox, which is very meta. Not quite an AI accountability buddy, but getting there. Okay. I'm sharing my screen here for the audience because I want to switch topics for a minute. So I don't know if anyone saw this, but I think probably last week this study hit the newswires. And the title of the study is The Impact of Generative AI on Critical Thinking. It was a Microsoft study, and basically what happened was some researchers took about 1,000 knowledge workers, of which marketers were a substantial portion of that, and they kind of looked at how generative AI tools have changed how people work, and fundamentally also how they think. And I think it came up with a pretty interesting set of conclusions. A couple that stood out for me. Firstly, it suggested that over-reliance on tools like ChatGPT is actually leading to a reduction in critical thinking. So I'll give you a quick quote. While AI can improve efficiency, it may also reduce critical engagement, particularly in routine or lower stakes tasks where users rely on AI, raising concerns about long-term reliance and diminished independent problem solving. Feels like a bit of a problem to me. It also references a concept that I have not actually heard before, but I love, called mechanized convergence, which is a fancy way to say that there is a tendency for outputs generated with AI to kind of converge and become uniform, repetitive, and basically boring. So essentially, this study is saying that no one's going to think anymore. Everyone is going to end up using the same playbook, and everyone is going to start sounding the same. Eilon, is this something you have seen in the wild? And then is this something that gets solved with just making the technology better? Or is this something about how people need to use the technology? Both? Something else?
I think we all sound the same for a couple of decades now, but kind of in more seriousness, it's definitely something I'm seeing. So, for example, when I get like a document from somebody in my team, there's always this. If it feels a little bit bland, it's always like, oh, did you use an LLM to write it?
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, at least, I've kind of seen this enough to the point where you almost like feel the sort of this like, oh, it looks like this the same as everything else, and people almost like go back. They use the LLM to do the style things, but I think we all already started sensing that if you kind of just use the LLM to actually create a thing, it just feels like it's written by a machine. In a sense, it's bland. It is like everybody else. So I don't think it's still going to be done. But I assume that like most technology, we're going to all learn when to use it, when not to use it, and self-calibrate. I don't know if it's going to be in a smart way. Like iPhones, we never figured out how to calibrate the right way. Many other technologies we did, but there's certainly going to be, we've certainly seeing this, and I think there's certainly going to be a further calibration by everybody.
So I have a meta comment on this one, which is, I dumped this study into O1 Pro and I said, tell me what this study actually says. And the study is about self-reported critical thinking. So like, do I feel like I have activated critical thinking during the use of these tools versus is there some like intrinsic measure of critical thinking, which there is not. And the observation that I had is, there are some tasks on which critical thinking applied in the generation of an asset is not the most critical kind of application of critical thinking. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about AI is I think critical thinking and cognitive capacity is limited in humans. It's limited by the calories you consume and your ability to be awake 24 hours a day. And like there's an actual temporal limit to your cognitive capacity. And then there's a physical limit to your cognitive capacity. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about AI is the ability to preserve cognitive capacity for tasks that require it and avoid wasting cognitive capacity on tasks that don't require it, but still maybe an input or output of critical thinking. And so this doesn't surprise me in that I also don't feel like I'm activating critical thinking when I'm using tools or generating things, but I do feel like I'm activating critical thinking when I interface with the outputs of those or provide inputs into those. And so what I think we're doing is shifting around where critical thinking is applied. Now, there be dragons. Of course, there are going to be people who don't do those two pieces, who do not apply the critical thinking. And I can give an example from my personal life, which is teaching my 7-8-year-old to code. He has his favorite workflow, which is he asks ChatGPT to generate Python from him. He puts it in a Google Colab notebook, and he does different things. He calls like the NBA API, or he builds little like text chess games, blah, blah, blah. And mom makes him read the code. Like, I'm like, this is great. I love that you can copy and paste. I love that you can press the buttons. Now we're going to go line by line and actually read and understand this. And I think you do need to build in mechanisms by which you have sort of like quality accountability, either in yourself or in a team, to sort of mitigate some of these effects. But I'm not as I don't think this necessarily says doom and gloom for the future intellect or differentiation of even inside organizations. I think there's still a lot of cool stuff that human creativity and imagination will be applied to.
Right. But I think you both also said we've got to hold ourselves accountable to reading the code or to reading the output. Because, you know, I think you made a good point there, which is, you know, we only have so much brain processing that we can do. And maybe it doesn't make sense for us to, you know, use our critical thinking skills on some of the more sort of mundane or boring tasks. And in fact, that's a superpower AI can give us. But we also need to make sure we don't get caught in the trap of trusting everything that comes out of it.
Well, just don't forget that we're going to have agents reviewing agents' work, and there's going to be sort of LLM.
What are we going to be doing? Are we just going to be on the beach with cocktails? Is that the plan?
Are we going to what?
Are we going to be on the beach with cocktails? Is that the plan when that happens?
I don't know. I'm a very abundance, optimism mindset. I think with this, like, we're talking about enterprise software and, you know, product marketing and product management. I think there's so many amazing, like, society transforming things that can come out of this level of powerful technology that I'm pretty optimistic that we'll find other problems to solve.
I read this one meme not so while ago, basically somebody saying, you know, I'm going to transform it to this topic, right? I'm so glad AI is doing the critical thinking for me. It leaves me more time to load the dishes into my whatever. So unfortunately, there are some things we're still going to do on our own, right? Maybe not the things we want to do, but, you know.
Okay, I think we can do a couple more questions, then we're going to go into Q&A. We have the Q&A thread is lighting up. Eilon, I want to talk to you a little bit because Gong is obviously, I think your most of your buyers and users are in sales. So I think you probably have a unique perspective on AI and sales. I think we're seeing a lot of AI-powered assistants, chatbots show up in the customer service world. I think my favorite example is Intercom's Fin. I don't know if you've seen Fin, but they claim to be able to resolve, like, I think something like 50-60% of first line support issues using AI. But on the sales side, I think adoption is a little bit slower. I'm going to share this LinkedIn post, which I think describes really well. This is Alina Vandenberg, who is the co-founder of Chili Piper, a very smart person. And Alina shared this last week or a couple of weeks ago, where she talked about how, you know, C-level executives are thinking about AI in the go-to-market flow. And her take is AI SDRs continue to be flops. They just pollute our inboxes and burn our TAM. What's your read on the long term, Eilon? Is there a world where we're all buying from AI? And, you know, obviously AI helps buyers research the purchases as well. Are we going to be buying from AI? Is that ever going to happen? Is it still a ways off? And kind of part two of that, how do we go beyond the, you know, spammy AI cold emails to more meaningful interactions with our buyers?
Yeah, so I assume many people in the crowd here have seen the sort of the news. I think it was yesterday about you know, one SDR kind of AI SDR company that took the notion of logo growth a little bit too seriously or too literally.
I did see that.
I think it's, you know, AI is not going to be 100% accurate, right? In the next few years, right? I think kind of suggesting, you know, based on current trajectory where we might be in 5-10 years, I think it's kind of hard. You know, is the trajectory going to continue? Is it going to slow speed? I mean, who knows? I think as of now, AI is not 100% accurate. So I think the killer applications are the ones that actually work well in an environment where you don't have to be 100% accurate. And we talked about agents of agents before, and you sort of like kind of stack them up, and now it's like 90% accurate, 80% accurate, and eventually it's just like very far off. So I think service is a great application where like you don't have to resolve the ticket. You're like, hey, this is what I'm seeing in a knowledge base. Did it solve your issue? Great. Then there's another chance. I think SDR is the hardest job, right? You want to get somebody's attention. You don't want to miss there. I think also outbound in general, like customer conversations. Look, this gentleman doesn't want to buy from you. You can't just like 80% do this. I think there are many other use cases in sales which are more tolerate better this level of inaccuracy. For example, we have a kind of something kind of in our labs that is an AI trainer, right? Now, you're a sales rep, you can train with a virtual customer. Now, if the customer goes wrong a little bit, that's fine. I mean, maybe your real customers are going to go wrong as well. It doesn't hurt anything. So I think the first use cases are going to be those that tolerate errors. Eventually, do we get to, are people going to actually replace, or rely on AI to replace? I don't know. But certainly beforehand, there's going to be a level of regulation, because the last thing humanity wants is, a bot calling me every single minute, because humans are going to reject it one over another. So that one we'll have to figure out before we commercialize, because we only have one phone and I guess one pair of ears, right? So.
And that's kind of happening. I think I got an AI sales call the other day, and the crazy thing is, I couldn't tell. I tried to engage with it briefly, but it wasn't a particularly successful sales pitch. But I mean, I think we're all seeing this in our inboxes and in LinkedIn. Like, it's just 10x the volume of outreach. Okay, I can't believe we are near the end, so I want to leave time for Q&A. But let me just ask you both the same quick fire question before we wrap and move on to Q&A. So here's the question. I'm a CMO. I am gearing up to reinvent my marketing strategy and retool my entire team for the AI era. What is just one piece of advice you would give me?
I'll go first. Give your team an entire week and say, do nothing, but try to do your job with AI and come back to me with what you learned. I think like that is just, people are not dedicating the time to learn and really think about the transformation. And so I think, and then you do the same. One day of function, and you go in and you say, today I'm going to focus on product marketing. Today I'm going to focus on demand gen. Today I'm going to focus on performance marketing. And just learn and experiment. I think even 5 business days of that kind of learning and experimentation investment will give you a much different point of view about what the world looks like and help inform your planning.
Love it. So AI Sprint Week. Awesome. Eilon.
Yeah, I would say very similar. Hands-on is critical. I actually took all of my product team, like I gave them an assignment, grades and all. I mean, not real grades, but like, fictitious grades that forced them to do certain things with AI. I had a grader and it was a huge success. I would probably try to even, in addition to maybe kind of having people try to bring people from the outside, like adjacent companies, similar companies, because people might already be 3 steps ahead, but kind of force that, turn this into a hands-on thing, which is like, hey, I brought this product marketing person who's doing this, show me how you do it, and then you sort of practice, but kind of the same idea, maybe different execution. Just go do stuff and you're going to learn it. We've done it in our product marketing team, by the way. We kind of did this little tutorial around how to, I think it was summarize voice of the customer. And everybody was like, oh, I want to do it. Like within a day, 10 people were doing it, just because they saw how easy it was.
So basically get hands-on. That's the advice.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. All right, we're going to do a few minutes of Q&A now. So people are just loving tools. Like, most of the questions are about tools. Let's do this one. Are there any tools that we have not mentioned so far that everyone should go and check out after this webinar? So maybe if there's a couple of tools that each of you are using that people should go and check out with a marketing skew, what would they be?
I forgot to mention HeyGen. So I think the video generation tools are very, very interesting for video content. So I've been playing a little bit with those, and I think they're getting quite good and can be used for short form video.
Cool. HeyGen, Eilon, anything we haven't mentioned?
I think there are so many. For images, I sometimes use a tool called Pixel Cut. I don't think it's like radically different than others. Just like easier for me to do certain like cropping and resizing and other things. But image generation is I think Claire, you mentioned for your next presentation, like I use AI for lots of like graphics. It's way faster and nicer than go and find some designer or look it up in Google Images, and then you could really kind of make your images support your points.
Awesome. Eilon, I'm going to give this one to you. So this is a sales focused question. So given that, you know, we are we're marketers and salespeople and technologists, but we're also buyers who are evaluating software purchases. What value do you feel like great sales reps provide today, given that so much research about the thing you are buying can be automated with AI? Like, what are the top reps doing differently to kind of adapt to this world?
Two things. I think there's one that is evergreen is sort of relations. It's just like, hey, I'm here for you. I can help you if you have a question. So I think most people are not necessarily do want to have people to talk to, maybe not all of the time, but some of the time, and that relationship is important. But I think more than that, even I think especially in business to business, there's still a consultative selling element. Do you need this? What do you need? How you need? How to set it up? I don't like AI can't be that accurate just because the products themselves change all the time. So it was maybe trained in 2023 or 2024, and now there's this new feature or new capability, not just in software. And then how do you kind of even like guide a person to give you what they really need versus what they think they need? So people who do it really well, they can kind of do this consultative selling and help you understand that what you're buying actually matches what you need. But it is an art, and it's not easy, and not all salespeople do it in the same way, of course.
So in a way, it's almost like they are doing the things that good sales reps should have been doing for the last 20 years, but now there's more of a spotlight on it because maybe the technical knowledge is more freely available. So now you got to be selling value, you've got to be consultative.
Exactly. I think there's stats that says salespeople spend only 23% of their time in like doing real selling. And I think the opportunity in AI is not replacing this 23%.
Yeah.
It's chopping away the other 77, right? That's ridiculous.
Okay. Claire, this one is specifically for you because you mentioned your multi-agent workflow. So when things go wrong in a multi-agentic, multi-gen AI service environment, how hard is it to work back to find the root cause and manage change and spot the errors? And is it keeping humans in the loop that prevents this? So maybe put your 5 years ahead hat on and think about how, you know, you've got your Slack channel with your agents talking to each other. How are we making sure that agents are making the right decisions, that they're communicating with each other? How are we, you know, how are we finding issues? How do you think that works?
I mean, I think in software engineering, which is kind of my background, we've benefited from sort of like change tracking, change management, like Git ecosystem for a long time. And so we have a framework for identifying change, integrating that change, tracing back change. Like literally there's a thing called blame in Git that you can run to say who wrote this line of code. I just think that model is going to just cascade down to all these other assets. So what is like going to be the Git blame for a marketing brief? What's it going to be for a creative asset? I think the other thing that you really need to think about is like, what is error? Like there is error in software engineering. This doesn't work. And that's like pretty easy to trace back. There's error in marketing, perhaps inaccurate or incorrect. And then there's error like soft error, which is like not brand aligned, not perfect. And so I think really thinking about the categories of errors are going to help us identify how to manage it. At the end of the day, what I think about these agents is like, how do you do it now? Somebody reads it. Like, how do you do it now? I don't think anybody, when you get a campaign brief, for example, that doesn't quite hit the mark, I don't think anybody goes trace back to the exact moment you thought writing this sentence and like what went wrong in your thinking. Nobody does that. We just say, this isn't right. Take another go at it with this improvement. And so I don't want to over systematize what are ultimately going to be like pretty similar parallels to how we're working now. And, you know, I do think inaccuracies are going to be something you have to address, but like inconsistencies or, you know, perceived quality, I think those things will just be managed the way we manage them now.
So it's almost like as the agents get more human, they're going to make more human mistakes. And by the way, our tools and systems today are optimized for catching human mistakes. So we don't need to worry too much.
Yeah, kind of what I think.
We have so many questions. Thank you all for providing questions. We'll try and answer some of them offline and send them out with the wrap up email. I wish I could get some more of these, some really good questions in here. But I want to spend a moment to thank you both. That was awesome. I would love to even do this again. I feel like there's so much ground we didn't cover. But let me just ask you each individually. Claire, where can people find you? And anything interesting that you're working on that our audience should check out?
You can find me on on the internet, as you can see from all these badges. So I'm on X the most, LinkedIn, and then there's a highly entertaining but low frequency updates on TikTok. But man, I got the great handle there. I'm working on two things. I'm working on that agentic experience for Chat PRD, which I'm finding very fun to work on. And then if any of you are building AI-powered products or experiences, I'm working on a product called AI Configs at LaunchDarkly, helping software engineers integrate and test and optimize the quality of their AI implementations.
Fantastic. Eilon, thank you very much. Where can people find you, and what are you working on that is interesting that our audience should check out?
Yeah, so easiest is LinkedIn, which is here, and I tend to be more responsive than some people might imagine. So feel free to reach out if there's anything I can help with. In working wise, I'm working on this kind of company thing called Gong. It's been around for a while. We're trying to grow it up. The nice thing about it's got so much AI in it. And we have now over 20, I think, different what I would call again agents, that market would call agents, like automations and whatnot. So it keeps me up at night pretty well. I kind of don't know that I have the capacity to think more about AI than just growing gongs.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate both of your time. This has been really fun. I think our audience have learned a lot. We will send out the recording to this, but let me just wrap by saying thank you very much to the audience as well. It's been a real pleasure. And of course, if you want to learn more about how Crayon helps sales teams win more deals, you can check out our website at crayon.co. And in true style, I'm going to play us off with some AI generated Suno. Thank you both. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Tap your screen, the mission's begun. AI agents sharper than a golden gun, whispering secrets in the data flow. They're your bond inside this go-to-mo. Chatbots lurking, they're your clever spies. Decode the metrics with their ironclad eyes. Competitive moves they track all night. Silent agents keeping your team airtight. License to sell.